welcome back. We are here again at our favorite place, the closing table. We are proudly presented by our sponsors, Lynn with Ben and Cornerstone Home Lending and the Ocean Air Realty. That got us here. Now we're going to get you the rest of the way. Ben, you ready to hit the ground running?
Let's rock. As Al Bundy
Let's
would
rock.
say, let's rock.
All right. Something new. We're going to talk about MLB's new ABS challenge system. I got my Braves shirt on. MLB is up and running. Ben, what do you think about these cameras being used to correct these umpires calling balls and strikes? Have you been paying attention to this?
I like it. I see some awful calls. It's got to be hard being an umpire anyway. You're getting a 100-mile-an-hour ball thrown. And then you got the catcher, catching it and adjusting his mitt to try to bring it back in the strike zone if he needs to, all that kind of stuff. So it's a hard job. I get it, but there's some really bad calls in MLB from time to time. I think this is a fantastic way to help mitigate some of the discrepancies and some of the bad calls. What about you, Doug? What do you think?
Well, I think it's fantastic. Baseball umpires are my least favorite officials in any sport, anywhere. They're the most entitled, make it about me than any other referee anywhere else. They're just the worst to watch. I mean, do away with them completely. I think a stat I read was 830 calls were corrected using ABS system over 100 games. And I mean, the season just started a week ago. One umpire got 5 consecutive balls or strikes called wrong, 5 in a row. And then one dude 2 days ago who got several in a row completely whiffed on a call at first base, called the runner out. The ball was down the line in right field, completely overthrew the first baseman. Just absolutely, it's just terrible. I mean, do away with them completely. I love it. It's about getting it right. That's the most important thing. I get it that it slows the game down sometime, but what's more important, getting it right or keeping the game going? They've done great things to improve the pace of play using the pitch clock, which I think has been great because baseball games used to drag on 3-4 hours. That's really helped. This might slow it down a little bit, but I think everybody is on board if it gets the call right.
No, I completely agree. I mean, baseball's a slow game anyway, so whatever. I don't think anybody's going to mind as long as the call is corrected.
100%. All right, well, let's keep it moving to your approved. Ben, about 2 years ago, the results came out of the NAR case. And kind of the big fallout for agents and to a degree consumers was commission totals. And everyone thought that commission totals were going to crater. And they actually didn't. They actually rose in Q3 of 2025 from 2.38 in Q4. Of Q2 of 2024 to 2.43 in 2025. Why do you think that is from a lender perspective?
I think you guys as real estate agents have done a really good job of adapting. I think adapting and finding the ways to make this work for our clients. I think it was a stupid ruling anyway. From my perspective, nothing seems to have changed. I've had one deal in the last year where the buyer is paying part of the real estate agent's commission. And
interesting. Only one.
Only one. Yeah. I mean, it was a stupid ruling then. It's a stupid ruling today. But I feel like that you all as an industry have done a really good job of adapting to it to make sure that things don't go sideways with commissions. I mean, you guys work hard, and you're tasked with a big responsibility to make sure that the transaction goes through legally, smoothly, all those kinds of things. And, I just think you guys have done a really good job of adapting to this. And I think it was really stupid when it first came out. And I don't see anything from my perspective that has showed it's thrown a major wrench into the situation because you guys have found a way to make it work.
Well, the whole talk around it was to be more transparent when actually they've made things less transparent. We were already having conversations with our clients when we get an agency agreement about what the expectations were, whether you're listing or buying, understanding that that's all negotiable, but also giving them the best, again, setting the best expectations so they know what they're going to be asked for,
Right.
and explaining why it's asked for. Why do sellers overwhelmingly, typically the commission comes from their net? Well, it's because a lot of buyers aren't cash heavy and they can't afford to pay their agent. So if you're not
Right.
offering something, then expect a lower offer, or for the buyer to ask for seller concessions if they're having to pay their agent out of pocket. So it's all about education. One thing that I'm really excited about that we found out in my big update this year was currently there's a separate form for commission, and it's not even recognized on the contract. So if you had someone who wasn't above board and you sent the documents over to be signed, they could sign the contract, ignore the commission agreement, the cooperating commission agreement, and you're under contract, and you technically can't do anything about it because it's not referenced on the contract at all. We weren't allowed to reference it on there. So one thing that I'm really excited about is they said that in the docs, we get docs updated every July, that it should be referenced in the documents going forward. So hopefully it does away with that separate firm and so a form, and it's formally recognized on the contract. But we'll see. I mean, no offense to lawyers, a lot of them do a really good job, but I swear to God, they play with these forms every year. I think it's just to justify whoever they've got on staff to do this stuff. It's just crazy. But I'm glad that it's worked out basically like most agents thought it would, and not all the Chicken Littles thought it was going to bring the industry crashing down. It absolutely has not. So I'm great about that, or I'm really happy about that. But let's move on the hunt. We're approaching the spring market. As you know, sellers are chasing the perfect week to list. From your perspective, Ben, because I know you often talk to buyers who are also having to sell because they got to get the equity out of that house that they live in now, whether they're upsizing or downsizing. Does it ever come up with you about timing?
It does, definitely. I mean, I try to stay in my lane. You know, we talked about this. I let real estate agents realtor. I let realtors realtor, and I mortgage lend, right? But from my own personal perspective and years in the industry and what I've seen, I get that question a lot. And I always advise them to talk to their agent first. Okay. Talk to your agent. They know exactly what's going on comp wise in your market, days on market, things like that. Like, go to the expert for that type of advice. But I do hear it often. And I think a lot of folks do wait until the spring season because they know that business picks up, that more people are out on the hunt looking for houses. I saw an interesting stat that realtor.com says the week of April the 12th through the 18th is the best week to list in 2026 nationally. Their forecast says sellers listing that week could see about 26,000 more than at the start of the year if conditions line up. Now we talk about what are those conditions, right? Mortgage interest rates fall into that fray, and things of that nature. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made by folks on when to sell, when to buy, and hopefully, if that stat is correct, hopefully we're going to be in for a big April. But that's what Realtor.com came out with. I don't know, how true do you feel like that is, Doug?
I mean, it makes sense. That is the conventional wisdom, is list in the spring. And why does that make sense? Well, a lot of people like to move when their kids aren't in school, right? So they try to time it so they can make that switch during the summer months, between the spring session and the fall semester or whatever. Also, homes look better, just from a presentation perspective. Your grass is green, your flowers are blooming, the trees aren't full of dead leaves. So they're nicer to market. But one thing I always tell my folks is you got to move when the time is right for you and what's going on in your life. Don't try to time the market. Try to figure out what's going to work best for what you have to do on a daily basis to make this happen. Also, while the conventional wisdom is there are more buyers in the spring, which there are, there's also more competition as sellers. Right. So had you rather be one of 2 options in your neighborhood or one of 15 options in your neighborhood? Also, I saw another statistic yesterday, which has gotten even worse than the last time I saw it. I think the gulf between sellers and buyers in March was about 670,000 more sellers than buyers.
Wow.
So, wow. A lot of stuff to take into consideration. I was actually texting with a client today. We're planning to list probably early May, and we've been keeping an eye on a property right around the street from his, and it just went under contract, and it's closing April 30th if everything plays out right. So that's just kind of gives you a little peek under the hood as what we're trying to do to get ready, we're looking at other properties. It's not really a comp yet because it's not under contract, or I mean, it hasn't closed. It's just listed. So we see the list price, but we won't know what it actually sold for until they get to their closing table, right? So,
Right.
just kind of the things we're looking at to help position ourselves, not only get the house ready, but also mentally set those expectations. Okay, this is where we're thinking price, but we're going to make this adjustment at the very end when we have the most recent data right before we hit play on your listing. So just kind of giving you an idea of how that all works for those folks thinking about selling, trying to time the market and understanding kind of the thought process that goes behind it.
Yeah, I think the best week is when the home is ready, right, Doug? When it's ready to go.
That's exactly right. It's ready to go. It looks good. All right, let's move to lock it in. We've been talking a lot about the dance, Ben. We're at the end, the final dance here. We got the Final Four coming up this weekend. My pick that we picked all along, the Dukies, well, they got UConn right at the very end. What an amazing ending to that game, and just a gut punch for the Dukies. Sorry, Dukies, that's a tough way to go out. But, man, what an amazing game. So now who you going with, Ben?
I don't know. I think it comes down to Michigan and Arizona. I'll be honest with you. I think those two are by far the best teams in the country at this point. Duke blew the game. I think they were up by 19 points at one time.
19.
Yeah, and just UConn, to their credit, just kept whittling away and grinding. Kudos to Mullins. He's a freshman. I've been watching him all year. Kid's a stud. And to take that shot in that moment, now he's a tournament legend by having the guts to do what he did and obviously the range to do what he did. He pulled up a straight confidence like it was nothing,
Oh, yeah, from the logo.
I mean, pretty much from the logo. Like, he wasn't at half court, but he was about 4 feet inside of it, still on the logo, to your point. And I just, what a gutsy play. Dan Hurley, got to give him some flowers. People think he's crazy, but he's one hell of a coach. I mean,
gets results.
Gets results. In the last 2 years, he's got 3 Final Fours and 2 national championships. So, I mean, what else is there really to discuss about the guy? He gets it done in an age of NIL, in an age where, it can be difficult to keep a team together with the continuity and are building a team that can find that vibe and that ebb and flow. So, but I truly think that Michigan and Arizona are the top two. Arizona, I think, is the best team, but man, Michigan can play. So I'm kind of back and forth on those. I predicted Duke. I had them picked in everything, but to the victor goes the spoils. So well done, UConn.
So you've been talking a lot about Arizona. Of course, you think the winner of the Arizona-Michigan game is going to be the national champion. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's to me, it's the national championship game at this point. That's my perspective. But again, anything can happen. I mean, we see it. It is March Madness for a reason.
Madness.
It's complete insanity. It is.
I love it.
Onions, buckets. But yeah, man, I enjoy the tournament. I'm like you, Doug. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot more when my teams are still playing, but it is what it is. Hopefully Louisville will get back and UNCW get in the tournament next year.
There you go. All right. Well, let's keep it on moving to our due diligence topic this week. Seller concessions. Ben, talk to me about how you discuss seller concessions with your buyers during the approval process, maybe during the offer process.
For me, it's about the client and the real estate agent understanding the maximum amount that a buyer can receive in a form of a seller concession due to the loan product that we're providing. So, as an example, with conventional financing, which is your cookie cutter deal, great credit, low debt to income, a lot of times 20% down, but doesn't have to be. You can get as little as 3% down on conventional. As a first-time home buyer. You can also get 5% down as kind of a standard away from that. But I say all that to tell you, you can get up to 3% seller concessions. And that 3% is not derived off the sales price. It's derived off the loan amount. So as an example, if you've got a conventional loan, it's a $500,000 loan amount. 3% of that, you can get $15,000 in closing costs you could ask for. Okay. Now, the other side of that is VA, FHA, USDA, the government products will allow you to go up to 6% seller concession. So keep that in mind, guys. 6% with FHA, that's a lot of money in some cases. So you get more flexibility. I try to time it out with folks too, because when you get these seller concessions, you can't take the money with you after closing. It has to be used towards true closing costs. Can't be used for down payment either. So when we try to formulate the offer that you guys as real estate agents are submitting on your client's behalf, we want to make sure we set a realistic expectation of what those closing costs will look like. So that way, when you're negotiating, you're not asking for too much that the loan product won't even let you go up to. Does that make sense? Also, we ask or give you guys the number. So that way you're not asking for 6% and you only need 3%, right? Because that definitely impacts the negotiations. It impacts the seller's ability or want to go to a certain amount. And again, you can't take it with you when it closes. So you want to maximize your savings there. So government products 6% seller concessions, conventional financing 3% seller concessions, and we try to narrow that down again to give you the accurate true total. So that way you're not asking for too much. So that way you can get the best deal. I mean, if you ask for 15,000, you only need 10. What's the point, right? I mean, just go ahead and ask the seller for 10 instead, and that way you probably have an easier yes as well. So that's our outlook and view of seller concessions.
Yeah, I think it's really about being strategic and understanding what's doable, and advising sellers too. Sellers will say, "I don't want to pay anybody's closing costs." Well, don't think about it that way. What you think about is what you're netting. Okay, what you're netting. It doesn't matter what the money goes to, right? And oftentimes, buyers don't come with a lot of cash in hand. So instead of reducing the price, keep the price where it is. Give them a $5,000 or $10,000 credit, because having to come out of pocket $5,000 or $10,000 is really impactful for a lot of people, right? Keeping that extra $5,000 or $10,000 on the loan, I mean, what does that impact your payment? I mean, it's not enough to move the needle on a monthly basis. So it's figuring out what the formula is that makes it work for everybody.
Right. And not asking for too much, because like I said, you can't take it with you when you go. So we try to keep it all in line.
There you go. That's right. All right, let's keep this train moving. Fix this. So a lot of these schools are working on fixing their coaching situations in basketball right now. The Wolfpack, they got their guy. They got Justin Gainey, a former player. I'm headed to the press conference this afternoon. I hope I get to shake his hand and introduce myself. We were in school at the same time, but I never got a chance to meet him. So I'm excited to have one of the pack leading the pack, and we'll see where it goes. He's been a great associate head coach at Tennessee, great recruiter, focused on defense, likes the big men in the paint to cause pressure, which we desperately needed last year. So as cautiously optimistic as a Wolfpack fan can be, I think last year was the peak of our cautious optimism. Maybe we weren't even cautious. That's why we're back to cautious now. But what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen at UNC? A lot of rumors floating around. Maybe the Arizona coach I saw yesterday, maybe the Michigan coach. They're also talking about Billy Donovan coming from the Chicago Bulls, which then people say, well, if Donovan leaves the Bulls, does John Shire go home to Chicago and leave Duke and take that job? So lots of stuff rolling around in the air here in the triangle now. What's your take from what you're seeing and hearing?
I don't think John Shire leaves Duke. I think it's one of the best jobs in college basketball, and I don't see that happening. I think he's also got unfinished business there, so I don't see that happening. I also don't see Billy Donovan moving out of his comfortable perch within the Bulls organization to go down to the collegiate level to tackle the UNC job. I don't know what's going to happen here. I think Dusty May, if they could get him, would be a great hire. My whole outlook on it is, though, yes, North Carolina is a blue blood of college basketball, but Dusty May's got it pretty good in Michigan. They're in the Final Four. He's got a team around him. They're successful. Why leave that? Michigan's a big school. It's a big school. They got money. So I think with those kind of plays with those kind of coaches, to me, seems a little bit unrealistic, just from the perspective they're already successful where they are, and they're already at a powerful school that has a lot of donors, a lot of money, and can pay his tab. So, I don't know what's going to happen with UNC. It's interesting. I think you bring MJ back in there and let MJ provide some help with this coaching search. and get the whole gamut. Go talk to everybody. Say, hey guys, not everybody, but perhaps get 5 or 6 guys like MJ and some other people, and say, all right, guys, what are you thinking? Who realistically would help bring us back to the place where we long to be? And so, I don't know what's going to happen there. I think, again, with Dusty May and them, those are long shots. I think the Billy Donovan thing is never going to happen. I think it already would have if he was going to go anywhere. He probably would have taken the Florida job back, before they hired Todd Golden. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Doug?
Well, I don't see why you would leave Michigan when Michigan's a football school and you really just have to screw up to get fired as the basketball coach. I mean, if he keeps performing like this, they'll build a statue for him. Maybe a little bit different story at Arizona, where basketball is king in Arizona. So you're already the top guy out there. I'm all about Carolina bringing Michael Jordan into advice because he did a super bang up job with the Hornets. Please get him involved. That would be fantastic. I would love to see that happen. So bring that, make that happen as quick as possible. But seriously, it does sound like for the first time since Frank McGuire brought in Dean Smith that Carolina is going to go, outside the family. My best Godfather impression you can get outside the family. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But they've got the resources, they've got what they need over there. Unless they've decided they're a basketball school, a football school now, which that's a great conversation that we could also have. Maybe Belichick knows somebody else that he could bring in. Hey, maybe Phil Jackson. What's he doing these days? Maybe they could bring him in.
Maybe they could bring Belichick's girlfriend in. She could coach. Who knows?
She already coaches the football team, right? Might as well.
Yeah. That's right.
All right, well, let's keep it moving to counteroffer a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about Justin Gainey, but even further, a lot of the NC State fans on the boards on X did not want Gainey because he doesn't have head coaching experience. But, the Arizona coach did not have head coaching experience when he got the job. Roy Williams, when he got the Kansas job, he left Carolina. He was Dean's assistant coach, didn't have head coaching experience. Where are you on the does it really matter? Because a lot of State fans wanted the dude in St. Louis. So what do you think about that?
I think it does matter. I look at especially where you've coached, right? As a head coach. Louisville, if as an example, brought in Pat Kelsey from Charleston. Pat Kelsey's getting killed up there in Louisville right now by fans and media that say, hey, you can't coach in the big games. You don't know how to win the big ones in the ACC. So for me, I was a bit surprised at this move. Rick Barnes gave the guy a ringing endorsement. But if you look at Tennessee, they do play good defense. But offensively, man, they can get very, very stagnant. It's not a real fast, fun brand of basketball to watch, in my opinion. It works for what they do it for. But, if I were a State fan like you guys, no offense, Justin, I hope it works out for you, bud. NC, I don't have an alliance here in North Carolina to NC State, North Carolina, whoever. I don't care. I'd like to see them all successful. Basketball's better. College basketball is better when NC State is relevant and NC State is good. I think that this guy will make an impact, but I don't know if it's the impact that NC State fans want. Your fan base demands results. You guys like success. Again, bringing a guy in your own, he went to school there, so he loves the university. You can have all the passion in the world for the place that you're at and love it to death. But if X's and O's wise, you don't have that experience, that big game experience, it can be a little topsy-turvy. I personally wasn't exactly overwhelmed by this hire at all. I thought it was kind of all right, let's kick the can. We got rid of Will Wade's gone. Let's get somebody in that's going to love NC State. Well, that's great and everything, but what are you going to do in big game situations? So that's just kind of my perspective. Rick Barnes seems to love him. Rick Barnes knows a whole lot more about basketball than I'll ever know. And so, can you trust him, or is he just being a PR man for one of his guys, as he should do? So that's my thought on it. I'm not overwhelmed by I find the hire underwhelming. I really do. I just, but we'll see what happens. You got to give everybody a chance. He's there now. So it is what it is. Let's see what the guy can do.
That's all you could really do. I think the AD, I think he knew he was the guy. Maybe he took a swing at the St. Louis guy. I didn't want the St. Louis guy because there's no way we were going to be his long-term option. If he had success here, he was definitely going to bounce somewhere else. I mean, I think he was holding out for the dominoes to fall so he can make the jump maybe to Arizona or something like that anyways.
Let me ask you this, though. You say that. Why is NC State not the destination? Why is it not?
I think it is a destination, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody sees it that way. It just is what it is.
Okay.
So
I'm just curious because you have a 20,000 seat arena, state of the art 20,000 seat arena.
Yeah.
The fan base packs the house every game, whether they're good or not. They're there, right? I mean, y'all show up. So for me, I don't know why that's not a destination when you have the facilities that NC State does. That's my only counter offer to you. And I know you feel that way, but unfortunately, I don't understand why folks besides you and I, why they don't see it as the destination. To me, that's a major job that, has a proven track record of a history of success over the years. You could build something nice there and you have the support. Again, 20,000 seat arena. It's beautiful. Like, come on. To me, NC State should be a destination.
Well, hopefully we got the guy who sees it that way. I know he does. And hopefully he'll have success. I definitely, it sounds like he's going to have the resources that he needs, even more than we had last year based on what people are saying. So now it's time to get to work, right? And
That's
hopefully
right.
This guy works and doesn't just talk. And Gainey doesn't seem like a talker to me, a blabbermouth. We thought we hit it out of the ballpark last year, and where did that get you? So what you think and reality, there's sometimes a very big gulf between the two. So what happens when the rubber meets the road is more important than anything else. So we'll see. We'll see. Portal opens next week, so hopefully we'll start getting some players lined up.
Well, on the other side of that too, I mean, Will Wade being a home run hire, the dude's a scuzz. He's been a skis everywhere he's gone. So, like, to me, I don't know. I didn't think he was that great of a coach. I didn't think he was into it. I don't think he was real happy with what he was doing and where he was at. So I'm glad that you guys have somebody in there that loves the place, and hopefully that love conveys over into the performance on the court, that passion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, let's keep it moving with getting local and talking about listings a little bit more. We talked about trying to time the market and everything else, but I'll tell you, my best advice is it's not about timing. It's about pricing it right. And sellers have to understand that if I give you data, the data 9 times out of 10 is going to tell you if we're priced right or not. And if you want to list it because you invested in it more, or you need money to get out of it, or you think it's worth this because Zillow said that, I'm telling you, you're starting out on the wrong foot, Mr. and Miss Seller. Listen to your real estate agent. Look at the data, because that's what the buyer agent is going to do when they bring Mr. Buyer to your house and they talk about an offer. They're going to say, here's the data, and the data says X, Y, and the seller's over here at Z. It's the wrong market to overprice. You need to price to market, be ready to negotiate, or be ready for your house to sit. And when your house starts sitting because it's overpriced, well, then people start to say, well, what's wrong with the house?
Right.
What's wrong with the house? So listen, look at the data. You have to understand that the market is going to tell you what's going to happen. It's typically very clear. And also, the market doesn't care what you paid for it, what your neighbor sold for, any of that. The numbers are the numbers based on the data. You have to pay attention to that. Now, yeah, if you've done some improvements, that's fantastic. But every house should have windows. So replacing all your windows doesn't mean you're getting every dollar back for what you paid. Or the new HVAC. Every house needs an HVAC. So you're not going to get all the money back just because you put a new HVAC in. You have to understand that. And a lot of people don't. So you spent $50,000 on a kitchen renovation. That's great. Every house has a kitchen. And yeah, your house is going to look better than your neighbor's because it was built in the same year and they haven't updated. But that doesn't mean you're going to get dollar for dollar back what you invested in renovating your kitchen. And that's just the truth. And my brother, who works with me, says it well. Brandon tells his clients very often, at some point in this process, I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear. But my job is to be honest with you, not to tell you what you want to hear. So hopefully folks understand that and can take that and use it when they're approaching getting ready to sell their house. What do you think?
I mean, the first 7 to 10 days, it tells the truth, right? When a home is listed online,
Yep.
or listed on the market, pardon me. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I don't have a counter to it at all. You need to trust your real estate professional. You know, you need to listen to what they have to say. One of the things I've learned along the years, to your point, Doug, just because you put money into something doesn't mean that it made the home go up in value. It could be a lot of this stuff, like you mentioned, the HVAC and stuff like that. Those are maintenance items. When you build a new room or addition to the house, that's something that's a comparable that an appraiser could use to increase value. But having a workable HVAC unit that might be on the newer side of the things isn't one of those items. That's not gonna drive your equity up per se. So for me, I think everything you said is correct. I mean, you got to price it appropriately. If you don't, you pay the price, and then your home doesn't get looked at because people see it sitting on the market for 30 or 45 days and like, what the heck is this? You know, why? What's going on? Well, it's overpriced. That's why. So the market will tell you very quickly if you've done a poor job of pricing your home and things like that. But I would say too, you need to trust your agent and what they're telling you. And if you're working with an agent that things don't sound right, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. It's like going to a doctor. I had a friend of mine in Kentucky. She called me and said, Ben, I'm selling my house, and there's a guy that wants to do it, but he wants to sell it at $279, and the house legitimately was worth like $340,000. And I'm like, what? So I got a hold of a couple of my buddies who are real estate agents back home in Kentucky, talked to them, and they're like, Ben, this is crazy. So they talked to her. They ended up selling her house for $50,000 more than what the original agent was going to list it at. So
wow.
If things don't sound right to you, or they're not, and that's a true story. I mean, I wouldn't tell it if it wasn't, but that's exactly what went down. She almost made a really terrible decision by working with this other agent, who in my opinion is a scuzz. He's just a scuzz. I don't know the guy, but I looked him up. Everything about what he did to this lady. She's a new widow. She just lost her husband like a year ago, selling his house, trying to take advantage of her just to flip it real quick and probably sell it to one of his buddies. They'll fix it up a little and resell it. So you got to be careful who you're dealing with. Work with people that have, like Ocean Air Realty. They've got amazing reviews online. I say that, Doug, because it's important. People can go and review the testimonies from clients that have worked with you guys. Same with me. I've got a litany of reviews online that I'm very proud of. So do your research, but when you find that agent that you trust, that has your best interests at heart and your family's, go that route and trust their judgment, because they know what's going on. Just because the house down the street sold for XYZ doesn't necessarily mean that yours will. There might be compensating factors that allow that home to sell for more money. Perhaps they had an additional room. Perhaps they built additionally to the house, like a sunroom or something that does increase equity in the house. So that's just my take on it, Doug. I agree with everything you had to say.
Well, I think another caveat I'd like to add is I get that people interview multiple agents, but if you're Mr. or Miss Seller are just interviewing agents until you get somebody who agrees with what your list price is, what you want to list it for, you're already barking up the wrong tree. Yes, agents will take listings knowing that it's priced wrong. And I've taken listings that were priced high, but not without having the conversation first that it's not going to sell at this price. We can list it there if you're realistic about market feedback when you haven't had any showings in the first 2 weeks. Then, yeah, we need to reduce, like I told you we needed to. I talked to someone about a month ago. Person's been trying to sell their house for about a year, listed with like 3 different agents. I talked to him about listing. I said, all right, well, we'll run comps again right before you're ready to go ready to list. We talked before Christmas, came back in February. Wanted to list for the same price that it was listed for before. I said, well, here's the same house in your neighborhood, same square footage, same floor plan, sold for, $55,000 less than you want to list for. You've already had it at this price for 6 months. What makes you think that you're going to get it now? And, he said, you're right. I'll just wait. I'll rent it. A week later, it's on the market. Guess where it's at? That same price that it's already been listed at before. And that was a month ago, and it's still there. Same price. I mean, folks, We're in this to help you, not to hurt you or harm you. We want you to get as much money as possible. But if we just say, "Oh yeah, sure, Mr. Seller, Mr. Buyer, or Miss Seller," that number's fine, and then a month later you're like, "Well, what's happened?" Well, it's because you wouldn't listen to me, or
Right.
because you went with
Right.
somebody who just said whatever I got to do to get my sign in the yard. So don't do
Right.
that. Look at the numbers. The data will tell you the truth, and don't just shop around until you get told what you want to hear, because this is the wrong market to do that. Remember when I just said there's almost 700,000 more sellers than buyers in the market? You think that's a good market to overprice homes? It's not. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. Anyways,
Well, I,
hope that's
I,
helpful.
Well, I agree with the fact that if you ask enough people the same question, you're eventually going to get the answer that you want, right? Somebody's going to give
Mm-hmm.
you what you want to hear. That's why it's so important to find a trusted, proven agent or agency to represent you, and that's my whole point. I don't agree with go talk to 6 different agents. That's bullshit. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. That's a waste of time. And honestly, I mean, if you need that much coddling and all that kind of thing, I don't know what to tell you. I wouldn't want to talk to that many agents. That's inappropriate. But if you're somebody that's not from here, that isn't a direct referral from a past client that you guys may have had, and you're trying to weigh your decision, go look at the reviews online. Go look at what these people are doing. Look at their sales. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. But also just make sure you're working with somebody that you trust, that you feel good about, and has your best interests at heart. And that's not hard to discern. You can easily get that information and also get a good feel for the conversation. But like you said, Doug, I mean, some people are just hard headed. I mean, they're going to do what they want to do regardless of what you tell them, right? That's what they want to do. They think they're the expert. I try to be humble enough to know that outside of my expertise of mortgage, I'm probably going to take a lot of advice from people that are far smarter than me in their specific line of work. So I agree with you. I'm not saying everybody needs to go shop for 20 different people. What I'm saying is, though, make sure you're working with a trusted, proven entity. And there's people out there like yourself, Doug, that have years behind you of experience, of track record, and also the reviews I mean, the reviews say it all. You're not hearing it from you. They're hearing it from your past clients. And I think that speaks volumes. I know you've got a bunch of them on there. So.
Of course. Well, thanks for pointing that out. It's true. And one thing I will just add to wrap up this topic: other agents, don't be a yes man. Be honest with folks. It's going to save you time and money. We spend a lot of money up front marketing properties without the promise that we're ever going to get paid. If it doesn't sell, where do you think that money goes? It's not coming back to us. So trust us, but also trust yourself, agents, and don't just do anything you have to do to get a sign in the yard, because it's going to cost you time and money if you do that.
Right.
But let's
That's
keep
right.
this moving. Let's move on to our final walkthrough. Ben, were you watching the Duke UConn game live? Did you see it in real time?
So normally the answer would be yes. I had a tennis match that evening, and I got done with it, got home, and me and Luke started messing around with something. He had me. The kid at 9, he'll be 9 in May, but I get asked at least 4,000 questions a day, and it's random stuff. So I think I was inundated with him answering his litany of questions, like who's going to be. Who are the Panthers going to draft in this year's draft and all this stuff? I'm like, I have no idea, son. I don't know. Anyway, I tuned in for the last minute and a half, and it was absolutely epic. I playing tennis, I would check the score, and they were up by 19. I'm like, oh, this is in the bag, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I made a phone call, and my buddy was like, Ben, are you watching this game right now? I'm like, no, let me put it on. Boom. Last minute and a half, just totally unreal. So, I mean, that's what March Madness is all about. It is insane. Weird stuff happens. Things that shouldn't happen. I mean, not only coming back from 19 down against the best team in the country, in my opinion. Now, here's the caveat to that. They've had injuries that hurt them at the end of the season there in the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament. Those injuries hurt them. But, I mean, kudos to UConn, man. What an epic game. It's what March Madness is all about. And Andrew Mullins is now a hero. He's a folk hero in the world of college basketball. That's a shot that's going to be talked about, just like the Leitner shot, for a lot of years to come.
Yeah, one shining moment, right? That's his one shining moment, at least for now. He's got the opportunity
going to Disneyland.
To make some more. Fantastic. Speaking of the Panthers, draft Justin Jolie. Draft Justin Jolie. You need a big tight end you can dump the ball to who will catch anything anywhere close to him. Give our
I'm
boy
thinking he's a
another
Wolfpack.
tool.
Is he a
Yes,
pack?
of
Is he a
course.
pack?
Of
Is
course.
he? Of course he is. There you go. There you go. Always
But hey,
counting your
when are the
Wolfpack.
Panthers best? When they've got a badass tight end. Wesley Walls, Greg Olson, somebody who can catch the ball in
Totally.
that 5 to 10 yard scenario, pick up that first down, maybe that long 3rd and 6 or whatever, a safety valve. I love a catching tight end. That's what we need.
Me too. I will say this: we do have a really good tight end, Sanders, but he hurt. He blew out his leg towards the end of the season, but he was really coming on and playing good football. I am super excited about. Let me just say this real quick, Doug. I am super excited about where the city of Charlotte should be really, really happy right now. The Hornets are legit. They can play ball. They can absolutely play ball. The Panthers are going to be legit. Dan Morgan is doing a fantastic job. As a Panthers fan, I'm like, wow, like this is insane. And I'm really excited to see about the new OC taking over play calling from Dave Canales to give him time to focus on what he needs to in the game. He gets a bit distracted, I think. He's got too many things going on. So, I mean, I'm just excited for Panthers football. I'm excited for the city of Charlotte with the Hornets and all that. It's really cool to see.
Well, Panthers keep pounding. The Hornets won their 40th game last night. First time they've gotten that many wins in, I think, 5 years. So definitely trending back in the right direction. They've got 6 games left to see if they can get out of the play-in spot or the play-in round or whatever. But at least they're going to be playing beyond the regular season, and hopefully the future continues to be bright for both teams. But let's move on. It's closing time. So let's talk about what you're focused on other than the Final Four this weekend. What are you keeping an eye on? Still a lot of stuff happening in Iran. Still, they're at the Supreme Court today waiting for a decision. What are you thinking about what's happening?
Well, I'm thinking, first of all, the reason for the season. Easter is this Sunday, and it's Resurrection Day. Jesus rose from the dead, and that's what the reason for the season is. It's not about Easter bunnies and baskets and all that other commercial shit that we get inundated with. It's truly about Jesus. The whole reason, I mean, the story of the stories of Jesus, none of that would matter if it wasn't for the resurrection. If he'd have just died and stayed dead, I mean, then what, right? But he rose again, just like he said. So for me, Luke and I are going to be taking a trip to Kentucky to go spend Easter with my family. Really excited about that. My mom, she cantors at church and she's singing Sunday morning. So we're going to go watch her, root her on. We're going to go to some ball card shows in Louisville. And then, Doug, there's an OVW wrestling show, which we love to hit while we're in Louisville, by the way. OVW is so much fun. I love it. And anyway, and Luke's not big into wrestling anymore. He used to be totally into it. Now it's all football. It's totally football and basketball. Those two things have completely consumed his mindset, which is fine with me. I mean, I'm good with that. But we're going to go to OVW Saturday night. They're having some battle in the bluegrass. It's going to be epic. I'm really excited about that. And also, normally this week, Doug, I'll back up just a second. I usually go to the Charleston Open Tennis Tournament. It's a WTA event, so it's a Women's Tennis Association 500 event, which is a very, very good tournament. And I go every year, but this year I didn't go. It's going on right now, and I've been watching it just like totally damaged from the fact that I'm not down there. But responsibilities take over. Being a single dad, you gotta do it. You gotta be there for your son. You gotta take care of the day to day. And also too, just for right now, it's just not a good time for me to go down to Charleston, especially with the trip to Kentucky. We're gonna leave on Friday and return sometime next week, or the following week. So just very excited about that. Family. So I'm focused. I'm getting away from the Iran crap. I'm getting away from all that. That's all going to be what it's going to be. I'm going to focus right now. This season for me is going to be about, welcome back, Jesus, the resurrection, and also having a really nice time with my family. My parents are in their mid 70s and they always come down and see us. So it's nice for me to be able to carry Luke up there to be able to spend time with them so they don't have to travel, the long distance back and forth from Kentucky to North Carolina. How about you guys?
Well, yeah, I mean, you basically said it. That's a fantastic way, especially to wrap up the show. Don't know if I've got too much more to add to that. We went to Palm Sunday service. We're going to be in Bald Head this weekend. We're leaving tomorrow. So we won an auction item last year, bid on it for supporting multiple myeloma, which is something I'll be talking about here another couple of shows. So we'll be down there with some family and just relaxing, trying to soak up some sun. Hopefully it'll be warm, maybe some nice bike rides. Definitely, hopefully kicking the ball, throwing the ball on the beach, and just kind of disconnecting from, like you said, all the madness and all the craziness that's going around, and just ignoring that for a while and focusing on all the good that's around us. Because sometimes we forget about that because there's so much noise and so much other stuff going on in our lives. And it's always good just to reflect and step back and think about how thankful we should be that we do serve a risen Savior, right? And just keep that in mind every day, kind of at the core of what we should be focusing on, and then our family, along with that. So I think that's a great thing for everybody to think about, be doing wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, to remember that and take that through into closing time, because we're closed, buddy. We're at the table. The docs are signed again. The deed is recorded. We've made it through another great episode. Want to thank again Lynn with Ben and Cornerstone Home Lending and the Ocean Air Realty. We have your back for your home buying, selling, and mortgage and refinancing needs. Reach out to us. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment if you've got other things you'd like for us to talk about. We always love to mix it up with our viewers. Ben, any parting words?
No, just a happy Easter, everybody. Be safe, enjoy your family. And Doug, I hope you guys have an amazing time in Bald Head. I know you will. And yeah, man, everybody be blessed.
Hey, buddy, have a safe trip to Kentucky. Everyone, happy Easter. We'll see you next week. We're closed.